Sounds good. Let me get let's
Okay.
get the YouTube started here. One moment.
Okay.
All right,
Welcome
Mr.
back, everyone.
Chair, the YouTube is live, so when you're ready.
Okay, good afternoon. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx Webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx Webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We also ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time, and at all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist control during a video appearance, and the host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, in the event of an appeal, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government has recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure is as follows. In the virtual world, we go in order after first dispensing with deferrals, if any, where an application is uncontested, meaning it may be contested with letters of opposition, but there's no one here to make deputations. Then the agent or applicant may proceed with a presentation if they desire. Where the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to address the committee. The committee may ask questions and then take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and the clock is up on the board, and we will comment when you've reached 5 minutes and ask you to wrap up. When addressing the committee, please start off by clearly stating your name and address, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application, meaning we deal with planning matters only and not other issues. The applicant or agent goes first on a contested matter or when there's someone else going to be speaking in opposition or with concerns, and they make a presentation to the committee of their application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application is if substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those who are entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their presentation. And when all other speakers have finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to answer only those questions and rebut the issues that were raised by the speakers, but not to introduce new information at that time. That will then end marks the end of the discussion, and the application is then taken into committee for a decision. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff to declare with respect to the items in the afternoon's time slot? Okay, none to declare. In terms of deferral requests, I note there wasn't any on the consolidated planning memo. However, it looks like on review of the application, was it the first? I saw on one of them, I think they were asking for a deferral. I believe it's number 25.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so should we perhaps deal with that one at the outset?
Yes.
Okay, so 25, A, B, and C, 386 Rimmleton Avenue. It's an application to sever the property to two undersized lots and redevelopment. Each is the sides of a new semi-detached dwelling with attached garage to be built as outlined in B and C. Without getting into all the details, we have we have a deferral request from the applicant or the agent in the March 13th email. The agent is Ida Evangelista. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista. I am asking for a deferral for 386 Rimmleton as the zoning, a couple of the variances in the zoning notice was incorrect, and and to allow us time to perfect the application with planning.
Okay, and there is no one else here appearing on this application. I mean, there's no neighbors registered to speak. So, members, any questions for Mrs. Evangelista, or can we have a motion to defer?
I'm happy to make that motion based on item number 6 at the applicant's request to defer.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that motion? Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. The application is deferred. Have a wonderful afternoon. We'll see you again, Mrs. Evangelista.
We'll see you soon.
Okay. Oh, I think you're on one this afternoon.
I am. See you later. Ciao.
Ciao. Okay, our next application, and now I think we're into deferrals for the rest of the afternoon. At least the next one is anyway. 35 Saffron Crescent. And this matter was deferred from the April 29, 2021.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we're going back to item 20.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, you're right. I'm looking at 26 as the next item with wishful thinking. Okay, my apologies. Sorry. And 20 is on the previous page. Here it is. Okay. My apologies. Item number 20. And I was thinking we're almost done. 70 Haverson Boulevard. It's an application to construct a new dwelling. There are 5 variances. We have previous decisions on this property, both from August 16, 2018 and July 4th, 2019. We have an order to comply, cover letter, and Metrolinx advisory. In the additional materials, we have a support petition, and Urban Forestry is looking for condition number 3. And the agent for the applicant is David Eagleman, and David Eagleman is the only speaker on this application. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Sir Chair and committee members. I don't think I need to provide a full presentation. I provided a detailed cover letter, so I hope the committee has read that, but I'll just briefly say that this application was essentially already approved back with the original approval that is on file. This is essentially the 3rd application for this proposal. The reason for the 2nd application was because of incorrect front yard setback calculation. And the reason for this 3rd application is because essentially a building permit has already been issued. And once construction began, it was determined that that 50% of the existing walls could not be maintained. So therefore, this proposal is now being considered a new build rather than originally it was considered an addition, but it is the exact same proposal that was previously approved. We do have multiple neighbors in support, both immediately adjacent neighbors, and we have discussed it with planning staff. They have no concerns. There's no concerns from any city departments or surrounding neighbors. So through you, Mr. Chair, it is my opinion that this application meets the 4 tests, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
And you're okay with urban forestry condition 3?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Members, any questions for Mr. Eagleman, or is someone ready to weigh in? Mr. Kamarik?
Yeah, I'm satisfied that we meet the 4 tests. Just a comment. I mean, normally you don't like to see a 0 lot line, but I understand the situation here that it's City Boulevard to that side, and it's an existing building as opposed to a new build. So anyway, other than that, I believe it does meet the 4 tests. It's minor in nature, and I would like to move approval subject to forestry condition 3.
Okay. So motion to approve, seconded by Ms. Alderson. Thank you. All in favor? It's unanimous. You have your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. Have a great afternoon.
You too, sir. Okay, item number 21 is 85 Burr Avenue. It's for a one-story side addition with 2 variances. Urban Forestry looking for condition number 1, 2 letters of support, and that looks like about all we have. We have the owner, Morris Caloza, speaking on his own behalf, and then we have the neighbor next door at 87, upon Adam confirming that they're on the line.
Mr. Chair and members, we have spoken to the area resident at 57 Burr and have confirmed they will not be on the meeting.
Okay, so it's only Mr. Caloza.
That's
Welcome,
correct.
sir. Okay, we have 2 letters of support, nothing else on file. Very simple application, sir.
Yes. Yes, sorry. Yes, very simple application. We're simply asking to do a bump out of our kitchen. I believe it's about 200 square feet or so, and we're using the existing west wall and just extending that by 20 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess there's urban forestry is involved. You have a condition 1, which is a permit to injure a public tree, a city tree. And let's see if members have any questions for you, or if someone's ready for a motion. I see you do have an arborist report, and okay.
I'm ready for a motion if no one has any questions.
Okay. Anyone?
Does anyone have any questions? No?
Doesn't look
Okay,
like.
I'm ready to make a motion. I'm satisfied this meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act and move for approval subject to urban forestry condition number 1.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that, Ms. Reddick, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous. You have your approval.
Great. Thank you very much.
It was okay. Enjoy. Item number 22 is 466 Prince Edward Drive North. This is an application to construct a 2-story rear addition and a new detached garage in the rear yard. A previous Committee of Adjustment application refused variances relating to front yard setback, side yard setback, dwelling length, dwelling height, platform encroachments, roof eaves, setbacks, soffit height, and driveway width. So now we have an application. There are 6 variances. We have a planning memo from January 26th recommending refusal. We have minutes and an arborist report and 4 letters of objection. In transportation, we have transportation advising they have no concerns. And I think I said urban forestry conditions 1 and 2. The speaker on this is Joe Dome, as well as we have the neighbors subject to Adam's confirmation from 464 Prince Edward next door and from 84 Queen Anne Road registered as well.
Mr. Chair, members, both area residents are present on the call at this time.
Okay. So, hang on for a second. So let's hear from Mr. Dome, I guess. We have that previous decision. Okay. So, sir, just give us a bit of the history of what went on and back in, looks like you were the agent back then in January 26th.
That's right. Yeah,
Hey.
I just had a question regarding the planning report you mentioned from January. I believe that refers to the previous hearing.
Yeah, I just saw that noted in my things, but that was the report on the previous, correct?
Yes. Yeah,
Not on. So there is no planning report on this application.
that's correct.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
after the previous hearing on January 26th, the owner has revised the drawings to comply with both planning recommendations and committee comments to reduce the length of the dwelling to comply with the bylaw at 17 meters, which also further preserves the large tree in the rear yard. And the revised application mitigates impact by being within the bylaw for overall height, lot coverage, floor space index, main wall height under the new bylaw, and now length as well. The intention for the owner is still to build a two-story dwelling which can accommodate multi-generational livability for their needs. The owner and the architect designed the dwelling to retain a significant portion of the main walls of the existing basement and side walls of the main floor, as shown on the basement and main floor drawings. Variants number 1 and 3 are referring to the proposed front yard setback and small front covered porch encroachment into the front yard setback. The proposed front setback of 11.07 meters refers only to the right side bay window. The left side bay window is at 11.35 meters, and the main wall of the dwelling extends further back to 11.58 meters, similar to the south adjacent neighbor at number 464, which has a setback of 11.41 meters, though they also have an enclosed veranda which extends further than any portion of the proposed dwelling. I'd like to highlight that the that the proposal represents an improvement over the setback of the existing dwelling. The current house is a second story that extends significantly forward over the existing front porch, which is beyond what is requested here. I'd also like to point out that the setbacks of many dwellings directly north at 468, 470, and 474 show the vast discrepancy of front yard setbacks on the same side of the street, and also to the south. 3 and 4 doors away, 460 Prince Edward and 80 Queen Anne Drive have 2 stories which extend further than the proposed setback and further forward than even the existing dwelling. Variance number 3 refers to the front porch encroachment into the front yard setback, and similarly, this is a large improvement over the existing porch impact. The existing porch spans the entire width of the dwelling, while also extending farther forward than the proposal. The proposed front porch has been drastically reduced in size over existing and pushed back. For context, the proposed porch does not even extend as far forward as the neighbor's enclosed veranda at 464. So in context, the proposal overall improves upon the existing front yard conditions as they relate to the front yard setback and view from the street, and furthermore requires no soft landscaping variance. Variance number 2 refers to the proposed side yard setback on the north side, which applies to the rear corner of the dwelling, which is due to the continuation of the line of the existing retained main walls. This is mitigated by the fact that there is a very adequate space between this setback and the neighboring dwelling to the north. And this is further mitigated by the south side, which is set back further than the bylaw to accommodate the existing driveway. There are also many houses along the street, including newer builds that are a similar setback to the lot line. And other builds that are situated very close to each other, as opposed to allowing for the amount of space on both sides as is proposed here. Variance number 4 refers to the eaves, which are also following the existing condition. Variance number 5 is under the old bylaw, while the application does meet the new bylaw for main wall height. And variance number 6 pertains to the existing driveway width, which is being maintained, and transportation has no issues. I would just like to take a moment to address the neighbors' written comments. We understand that they're still not satisfied with the revisions. However, we do feel that many of the written concerns seem to be unfounded, as many either pertain to existing or as-of-right conditions. And again, the dwelling is within the as-of-right bylaws for height, main wall height, lot coverage, FSI, length and depth, and no balcony is proposed. The concerns about the rear tree have been addressed with reduction in length, and urban forestry has no concerns with the application, recommending conditions 1 and 2. Furthermore, no soft yard landscaping variances are requested as well. And finally, planning has no concerns with the current application. And overall, we feel the application is reasonable and minor in nature. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dome, for that presentation. So, yeah, the only thing you said revision, you basically abandoned that old application, didn't appeal it to the TLAB, and you came with a fresh application, went back to the drawing board. So this is a separate, completely new application, not a revised. But I appreciate the semantics, the changes you made from the last time around. And like you just said, good segue. Not all the neighbors. There's a lot less opposition, I note, than there was last time. But we still have, so we'll hear from them. Any questions, first of all, for Mr. Dome before we do that? Mr. Pomeric?
Yeah, just, I'm assuming that a survey was submitted with the application?
Yes.
Okay, maybe it's a question for staff. I just checked the survey and I believe it's for a different property that's part of this file. It appears to be for, hold on.
You're correct. We'll try to get the right one
Yeah,
to you.
For Alderton Court.
Yeah, because really I was concerned about the driveway width and how it impacted the city tree in the front, but that question has been answered anyway by saying that essentially you're not changing the driveway width, it's staying as it is.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Dome before we hear from the neighbors? Okay, so the first neighbor on the list is the next door neighbor, Derek Roand, at 464. And we have a letter. Perhaps we can put that up while he's
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Welcome,
Great.
sir.
Thank you very
Welcome
much. I apologize. I'm out of the country right now, actually, and I'm glad I'm able to get in. Thanks very much for the opportunity to speak today. I'll again, as you know, try to keep my comments brief. Essentially, what we are dealing with here is an application in which the previous application was rejected wholesale in respect of every variance that was requested. Right now, we have a whittled down version, but still with 6 out of the 10, I guess, with the 4 of the most egregious ones being removed. There's been no further consultation by the homeowner in respect of this, who is a developer, and there is still concerns remaining. And I think the applications and the comments made in the previous application, because it's the same variances, still hold and ought to be reviewed by this panel. With respect to my submissions, the submissions of myself and my wife, we're the neighbor on the south. We've made previous submissions in respect to the previous failed applications. They can be found at a Schedule A to our materials. It's items 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I think it's generally our view that there's a bit of res judicata here in respect to this issue, because it has largely already been decided in respect of the specific variances sought. However, there are some items that we would like to highlight. First of all, I don't believe there has been any approval by urban forestry in this matter. My understanding, and I stand to be corrected, but the letter that was sent by urban forestry it indicates that there has to be submissions of a completed application to permit and injure or remove a tree, and there has to be a submission of an application to remove a private tree as well. And to my knowledge, there hasn't been any result of that. And then this was certainly a very important issue that was raised in the previous hearing, and with the idea of the homeowner having proceeded to the committee for variance without having received the approval in respect of those items. And I believe we're in the same scenario here. So I think given that that appears to be an outstanding issue, some caution should be raised with respect to that point. Further, and if I can just take you on my application, that was on page 2. about no approval by urban forestry. In respect to item 2 on page 2, the trees are still at risk. If you see the TP on item number 2 on page 2, if you see the TPZ, it seems to be rather small. I don't think that's a fair representation of how large that tree actually is. And you can see from the photos on, let's say on page 3, of how far it reaches as between the properties. And certainly it overlaps and goes onto our property. And certainly on page 5, you can see a photograph of how large that item is. On page 6, you can see how large that tree is. Page 7, it's an enormous tree that's basically an anchor tree within the entire block. And the idea of this minor TPZ is not a fair representation. So forestry still is at issue. On page 4 of our submissions, I do note that for our neighbors to the north at 468, you can see the photograph of the large series of trees that would be affected. It's not the big tree, but it's a series of trees, and you can see the white car there. There is a series of trees that will have to be addressed, and there will have to be a completed application there. That has not been done. In respect of the driveway issue, I think that to some degree, the view is that the existing driveway is sufficient. That can be found on page 8 of our submissions. Shows you the width of the driveway currently sufficient. There's no need to push it out in the front and add a parking pad, which is, I think, quite frankly, if you look at page 9, a somewhat troubling precedent to set for the area. There is sufficient line to park cars and multiple cars on it, and to start changing the size of the front yards is, in our view, and I think it's with respect to the other neighbors as well, unacceptable. And in respect to the current front yard setback, I hear what Mr. Dome's saying, but I'm not sure that's actually correct. If you go to page 10 of our submissions, you'll see that our front area, and I've lined up you can see from the photograph, we are lined up with the front porch. It's a straight line from one to the other, and you can see the house in the back as that is 466 Prince Edward Drive North. So the idea that my house is further forward is fundamentally incorrect. You can actually see that if you go back a page to page 9, you'll see that the houses are largely aligned, and what 466 intends on doing is pushing that even more forward, and therefore taking away the alignment. As we discussed, the houses south are in alignment. The houses north, and particularly in respect of 468, 468 is an original farmhouse from the area, so its alignment is off, but it's quite frankly a home from the turn of the century, and is not indicative of the front yard setbacks in that part of the neighborhood. So I don't think what Mr. Dome said in respect of the front setback is accurate. The front setback, as can be seen from the photographs, show that it is sufficient.
5 minutes, Mr. Chair.
There's no need to. I'm sorry.
So yeah, you're at 6 minutes. If
okay, apologies for that. And if I guess the final part of the submission would be on page 11. You can get a better view of the trees that I understand will be destroyed as part of the.
We'll have him respond to the on the trees. What they're going to try to save and not. I think they do have an arborist report, and what we have on our list is the committee. Urban Forestry is looking for a permit to injure both private and public trees. But my only comment before is that, you mentioning we have 4 letters of opposition, which are certainly valid. You said we should look at the other letters of opposition from the previous application. But with respect, in the application, often people, instead of coming back and proceeding with their original, I assume it's permitted. It happens all the time. They abandon that and they start to come out with a fresh application, hopefully learning from what the committee's refusal. And they've come back here, and I don't believe we have any issue from planning. So we'll have Mr. Dome respond after we hear from the next your neighbor at 84 Queen Anne. But it is a fresh application, so I wouldn't go back to read. We have your 4 letters. I wouldn't go back and read old letters based on the old iteration. But it is certainly permitted for people to do that for expediency or whatever. They decide not to proceed and go to T-Lab and make changes there, but come back with a fresh application. And it's not,
Mr. Clark,
yeah.
in respect to that point, Mr.
Yeah.
Clark, it's the same variance application. There's been no changes to those specific items. There was 10 items. They have not varied them in the slightest. So the arguments against them still hold.
well, we only have 6 items here, right? So if we do a compare, we can have them compare and contrast. Sorry?
There was 10, in respect of those, there was 10 items previously done. It was rejected wholesale, every single one.
Yes. Yes,
And
I
so,
understand.
but in respect of the remaining 6, the remaining 6 stay the same. So the arguments still hold would still hold against them. I don't think it's particularly well.
Can I answer that, sir? Can I answer that?
Okay.
Those
Please.
variances maybe, but it's a different. It's not that we don't approve variances. We approve applications that have variances. So it's a package, and it has certain variances. But I think and you're right. If it was exactly and they had the same 10, and that's called res judicata, and it would be the same application, and the same committee would probably turn them down. I mean, if it was a second different committee, a different panel, that would be something would be not permitted, and sharp practice or whatever. But these may not have separate applications. It's up to the committee to decide whether it's the same or different. But we don't have the 10. Those other 6 maybe, but you said they removed the most egregious ones. Right.
I said they in particular they moved one egregious one, which was length, but the other ones still stand.
But like I said, we don't approve if someone has a variance for a soffit height of 6.96, and that was the only variance left. And they previously had 10 variances, and that was one of the ones they refused. You couldn't say, well, that was you can't get that. You already, that was refused. It was a presentation of a proposal and as an application. We're here approving applications. Just wanted to clarify that. The committee may agree that it's the same, but that's the way we have to look at it. So let's now hear any questions, first of all, before we go to the last neighbor for Mr. Roand. Anyone have any questions, Mr. Morick?
My question really goes back to the applicant. I meant to ask this, but since you raised the issue of an arborist report, I just wanted to clarify. The arborist report we have on file is not for this property. So I wanted to ask if the agent has provided an arborist report or not.
Yeah, this is also in Alderton. Maybe we should look at Alderton, and maybe the stuff there is on this application.
No, it's not.
We
The
do
question
have
is,
that was raised yesterday, I believe. We do have
yes,
that
it
for
was.
the moment.
I'm just asking the applicant, did they do an arborist study? Yes or no? That's my question.
Mr. Chair, members, would you like me to bring the agent back on, even though we're speaking with the area neighbor right now?
Well, what can I see? Is there a
Yes,
date?
please. Sorry.
Is there a
Yes,
date on
this was an error on the part of staff, not the applicant.
The applicant, but so do we have an arborist report for this property?
There is an
Yes,
arborist report.
it's
for
on
this
the
property.
screen
Yes.
now.
Okay, sorry, that's, yeah. I guess I should have, I thought it would have been added to the added material, but I guess I should have gone on the site to look at it. Okay, that's all right.
You shouldn't have to do that. Should be before us. Okay, so does anyone have any questions before we move on from Mr. Roand to Ms. Brazel? Does anyone have any remaining questions or comments for Mr. Roand before we go back to Ms. Brazel? Okay, so next speaker is Sandra Brazel at 84 Queen Anne Road.
Thank you for allowing me to participate again today. My name is Sandra Brazel and I live at 84 Queen Anne Road. My husband, Rajiv Singhal, and I have submitted a letter of objection. It's the second on the list, so maybe you could pull it up because I would like to refer to some of the images. I did attend the January 26th meeting where the committee refused all of the variances, and you actually described this application as egregious. And I actually appreciate the clarification, Mr. Chair, on the fact that this is a new application. However, in my mind, it's like the same image. It's the same, if you look at the plan, it's the same plan with the end chopped off. It has 6 variances that are exactly the same. They were refused. The front, one of the letters in the previous submission was around the front setback, I believe, too, and that variance still remains. So in fact, this is the image is not different. The design of the house is not different. They basically chopped off a little bit on the backside, and that was an absolutely egregious variance. So it was kind of like having that variance. Now we're going to like back a little bit and hope that the rest of the 6 can fly through. That's how I view this. So I'm a bit dismayed by this, the return builder. And one of the things of the discussion points that you had at that last meeting was the encroachment and damage of the green space. And given this plan, I don't see any change to that. So I do believe that this does not meet the test of a desirable use of space. As well, those 6 variances, as our other neighbor Derek has mentioned, have been previously refused, and they still are basically in the same design of the same house. So I would like to move to start just to look at the location image. It's the second image in my letter, and it is the marked up image. Maybe we can move to that. I'm not seeing it on my, okay, one more, please. Move up one more, please.
There is a bit of delay, but
okay,
it is on the way.
That's the wonky image from last time. It is the wonky image from last time. It is the location map. However, what I want to do is just a quick reminder of what was agreed to by the committee, that this was a key lot in the neighborhood. This lot runs the distance of 5 houses on the south side, which is Queen Anne Road. It backs onto a huge green space and house on Shand, and it obviously impacts the neighbors on Prince Edward. Also at last meeting, we established the history of this house. This is one of the original 3 lots on Prince Edward Drive that were parceled by Louise's uncle, a farmer. And Louise's estate is the estate that sold 466 Prince Edward Drive to this builder. And these lots were intended to have these very long rear gardens that were filled with vegetation and trees. And at that time, it was a lot of pear trees and apple trees. This vegetation and these trees, many of these trees remain today. So now I would like to go to that image on the very first image in my letter, and this is from the arborist report. So if you look at this, this plan on the arborist report, and I compared this plan to the, is it still up there? Okay, yes. I compared this plan to the previous submission, and I can tell you that the proposed garage is in the exact same location as the previous submission. I can also tell you that the length of the driveway is the exact same length, 60, 100 feet of blacktop, and the pavers all around are still all around. So, and again, yes, the house was moved up, but in the spirit of not addressing some of that encroachment, is this really the right approach? So I would say that the overall size of the build of the development as a whole does not change as far as the amount that this development eats into the backyard. And now I want to bring your attention to the big pink area. This is the new addition, which on the survey is called the material storage area. And I was told this is to stack sod. This pink area, almost like an elephant in the garden, is nearly the width of the property. And to stack sod, I could imagine you would need to clear any shrub or tree in that expanse. So I now would like to review the photograph of the backyard, and that's the 4th image. And you've also seen this one before, so forgive me for re-showing these, but I know how busy you guys are and things like that. So it's the 4th image. That image there. So that image there is really showing that the fact that that tree in the upper right quadrant, that big honey locust, and the tip of, you can see the tip of the European beech, are still the trees that will be damaged by this plan. So again, no change there. So we are still seeing damage, the same damage that we talked about last time. And I really show this photo again to help you visualize the impact of this plan, this exact plan, is the same as the last submission to the homes all along Queen Anne Road, because the extension of the construction is exactly the same. The material storage area, which is new, as I mentioned, is going to go behind those
5
two
minutes, Mr. Chair.
rectangle shaped.
Okay, let it just.
Oh, just to wrap it up. Okay,
Let him
so
go.
anyways, all that area behind that, those two rectangular shaped trees will be cleared. And so really in closing, I just want to say that I don't feel that he's addressed the encroachment. This was a key discussion point. The trees were a primary discussion point. I don't believe there is a clearance from forestry on this. He did not minimize the impact on his neighbors. He did not even reach out to his neighbors. So, you know, this, despite knowing he's going to injure my tree, you would think he would reach out to me. So given the location of the garage, the driveway, the pavers, the way the house is still having 6 variances, I really feel that he has not taken your basically your refusal to heart, and he has not done significant learning from that process. And I really feel that based on all of that, it's those variances should not be met. That, you know, they're not minor. They were disputed last time and rejected wholesale, and it's an undesirable use of space. And based on my image, the placement of all that construction is no different other than being the end having chopped off on the house. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. I remember this is a, sort of that orchardy, those 3 lots that are very deep, and that's why he wouldn't possibly have a GFA or a coverage issue, because it is such a long lot and the area of that. But he's now has he not taken out and we actually never got. Remember, community planning wanted to defer last time and he refused, and that's but I guess they always say if you don't defer, then refuse. But so I guess the job of the committee is to figure, is this the same application with the end chopped off and we still have some of the things that were what caused the problems in the referral, the rejection or the refusal of the application, or by knocking off and not having a length variance, does the application become thereby acceptable? Even like you're saying, some of those 6 variances are all the same. So after Mr. Dome has his rebuttal, that's what the committee will have to decide. And before we do that, any questions for Ms. Brazel before we move back to Mr. Dome for his rebuttal? Okay, then let's go back to Mr. Dome.
One moment, Mr. Chair. All right, Joe, go ahead.
Yes, yeah, just to respond to the previous neighbor's comments. So that pink area for material storage, that is a temporary, that's not a permanent structure, and that's for storage of sod. So it's just during construction. She also mentioned the work on the proposed garage, which is entirely built as of right, and no variances are sought for that. Urban forestry, you know, as far as the issues with the trees, so urban forestry is only recommending conditions 1 and 2, and you know, urban forestry will need to be satisfied in order to proceed. I would like to reference the concerns that were spoken about in regards to the contention that the house was going to be pushed forward. And that is simply inaccurate. And the photos of the porches that were lined up, that's only representative of the existing porch in relation to the neighbor's existing enclosed veranda. As I mentioned in my presentation, both the proposed porch and the proposed dwelling will be pushed back further than the existing porch and the existing dwelling, the second floor of it, which extends forward. You know, many of these concerns referring to the driveway, this is again an existing condition. Transportation has no concerns, and we really feel like reducing the length was the primary issue that we were all talking about for this application, and so that's been completely reduced. I mean, it was originally proposed 22 meters. Revised down to 21, but now we're reducing it to 17 meters for to the as of right bylaw, and we feel that this is really the fact that there's no overall height variance or main wall height variance or any of the other massing considerations. We really feel like in its current form the application is quite reasonable.
Okay, thank you. Any follow-up questions or final questions for Mr. Dome or either of the neighbors? Or let's take it to committee for decision. Or discussion and decision. Okay, no questions? Okay, so we're in committee now. So again, back in January, some of the members here were part of a panel that refused an application. We now have a new application, and the issue of whether it is sufficiently, it's worthy of support. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, I remember this application very well. As a matter of fact, I think I moved for refusal. I just wanted to make a quick comment. There are assertions made by both neighbors on more than one occasion today that we wholesale rejected each and every variance. That is not true. As you pointed out, Mr. Chair, we make decisions on applications, not on individual variances. In my mind, and I remember my thinking quite well, I was the one that labeled the proposal as egregious, and it was for only one reason, and that was the building length. And I can even remember commenting on a 13-foot encroachment or addition to length was egregious. Now the building length is in accordance with the zoning bylaw. From where I sit right now, I don't have any problems with this application. I think it's quite appropriate and reasonable.
Okay, so Mr. Komaric.
Wanted to make a comment as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very large lot. And yes, there's a lot of trees, and when you're going to do an appropriate development on a large lot, you're going to lose some of those trees. You know, the neighbors are expressing concern about loss of trees in the back, and then also expressing concern about front yard setback. And you kind of can't have it both ways on a large lot, because if you want to avoid the front yard setback, you'd have to move the building back. And if you move the building back, you're going to injure that tree. So I think what's before us now is a reasonable compromise with respect to that, while preserving the owner's ability to redevelop that to something that's appropriate for the size of the large lot that's there.
Okay, so someone ready to make a motion in that case. Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, I find the difference between this application and what we dealt with 2 months ago is significant, as I said before, based on the building length issue, which has now been totally resolved. I'm satisfied that the variances meet all 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to the Transportation Department condition and Urban Forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Okay, do we have on transportation? I thought
I think transportation's in approval. They don't
it
have.
said, yeah, it was in the additional materials. It said no concern.
Okay, then I withdraw that.
They did make it subject to certain conditions. Paragraph that the revisions to the garage.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, okay, so there are.
So my motion would stand then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Sophia. So seconded for that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries 4-1 with Ms. Ruddick dissenting. And we'll move on to our next application. Thank you to the neighbors, and thank you, Mr. Dome. Next application is item number 23, 17 Fulford Place. This is an application. Application to minimizes every time. Application is to a 2-story rear addition and a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling. There are 4 variances. Planning is asking us to refuse variance 2 for the proposed rear yard setback for the ancillary structure at 0.0. And Urban Forestry is looking for condition number 2. And Bruno Lopez is the agent for the applicant. He is the only speaker. Mr. Lopez, welcome back.
Chair and committee members, my name is Bruno Lopez again. I'm Excel Engineering, 1649 Sinclair Avenue West.
You're okay with the community planning 0 lot line from the rear lot line for the ancillary structure?
Yes, absolutely. This was more of trying to cut the chase and the timing and the paperwork. Actually, in fact, and the matter of truth, this shed doesn't exist anymore. And yes, we are very comfortable to eliminate that variance.
Okay, so I don't think we need a presentation. Anything you'd like to advise the committee members of before I see if they have any questions for you?
No, just again, we try really hard to not even be at committee, but sometimes the existing conditions don't allow us, and here we are.
For
It's
sure.
very, very small, very, very good design, just a top up. It's something that fits the neighborhood, and it's just another project.
Excellent. Okay, any questions for Mr. Lopez, or is someone ready for a motion?
If there's no questions, I'm prepared to make a motion,
Thank you.
that we approve the application with the removal of variance number 2 and subject to forestry condition number 2.
Thank you. Okay, a second for Ms. Reddick's motion. Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. You have your approval. Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you.
Okay, next application, item 24, 702 Weston Road. Application to sever the property into 2 lots and create easements right away. Planning is advised at one point they were okay to schedule, and anything else they would advise. There is a planning memo from April 2015, I guess for our information. There is engineering construction services, and we have 2 previous decisions from way back in December 2002, and then one from March 31st, 2016. Ravines apparently appears to be no conditions. I had a question mark. So, and the speaker for this is Jose Garcia. Mr.
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a cover letter, the site-specific zoning bylaw, and the draft reference plan, as well as the previous decisions. So I guess we haven't heard from planning. They said they would advise if they had any concerns, but it was okay to schedule it. So I don't think we need a full presentation, but you'd like to just give a brief explanation what's going on here?
This application has been approved already, just that our lawyer took a little too long to file the registration, and therefore the time lapsed and we had to reapply.
Oh, so that was the same as the one in the last one in 2016 or whenever it was? Sorry. Yeah, 2016, March.
Maybe that one there, yeah.
Okay. Okay, members, any questions for Mr. Garcia? Looks like.
Just a comment, community planning didn't weigh in on this at all, did they?
They didn't after they said it's okay to be scheduled, and they would if they had any concerns. And I just look, this is exactly the same as the March 31st, 2016. So there are time limits, and if you miss the time limits, so I assume that's what happened here. Madam Secretary Treasurer, you aware, is that nothing else going on here than that?
That's all I'm aware of, yes.
Okay, so it looks to me, I don't know if the numbers are the same in terms of what they conveyed and retained. Perhaps Mr. Garcia can confirm it's the same, but it doesn't look like community planning has any problem. And it looks like, as he said, this application was granted back in 2016, and they just missed their time limits.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, anyone have any questions, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
I'm good to go forward with the motion if there's no other. I find the application has merit. It certainly meets the provincial policy guidelines that's been previously approved. I'd like to move approval subject to the usual ECS conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconded for Mr. Kamorik's motion. Mr. Taylor?
I'll second, but if I could just ask a question. engineering and construction services has no conditions attached to this. And
That's
I
correct.
presume,
They were
yes,
just advisory.
yeah, I presume that's because they probably set conditions in 2016, all of which have been met.
Yeah.
So,
What about urban forestry though?
no comments, no conditions.
It would just be standard consent conditions in this
I
case.
thought I had number 5 down for urban forestry, but I could be wrong.
Not on this application. There's no construction, right?
No, and
Yeah, I don't know where I got that number.
And both parts of the severed properties are already connected to services anyway.
Correct.
Yeah, I just have urban forestry number 5 question mark, so I don't know where that came from. It might have come from another application. It won't be the first time or the last time I've made that mistake.
This one, it's clear because I don't think there's anything to.
Yeah.
There's nothing being built.
Makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So where were we? We're in the middle of you made the motion, Stan, and.
Yeah. Sorry. So just clarification of what severance conditions, if any.
Just standard consent conditions.
Okay. So along timelines and such.
And I'm willing to second that motion.
All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you.
Okay, 25 has been deferred, so we're on to number 26, 35 Saffron Crescent. And this is an application to construct a one-story south side addition, which will be used as a day nursery. This is to the Metro Separate School Board, so it's on the school property. And the one variance is a minimum of 18 parking space required for the day nursery, and they're providing only 12. We have one variance. We have a draft lease agreement, an email with the parking and the site plan. And we have an email with transportation. We have a letter of opposition, which I believe we now know is from Tracy Capsley at 34 Mill Road. Urban Forestry looking for condition number 2. And this matter was deferred from way back April 29, 2021. So almost 2 years ago. And the agent is Emira Galatino, and we have someone from the TSB here to speak if there's specific questions with respect to the parking lease agreement with the Archdiocese. So no one here in opposition. Welcome, Emira.
Yes, thanks for the chat. My name is Emira Galatino, and I'm with LG Architectural Partners. I am the architect for this project, and I am also the representative and the speaker today on behalf of the Toronto Catholic School Board. I don't know if you guys want a quick presentation on the project or.
Well, you only have the one parking variance, so transportation is okay with this?
Yeah, they have given us a couple of conditions there that we are on board with, and we'll definitely provide before that. But yeah, that's pretty much the only variance.
Okay, you're okay with their conditions?
Yes, correct.
Okay, that's set out in their memo here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, 3 conditions and 4 going to the satisfaction. Members, does anyone have any questions for the agent or for the representative who can speak to the parking lease agreement with the Archdiocese, or is someone ready for a motion?
There's a forestry.
Sorry?
I believe there's a forestry condition as well, right?
Number 2.
Yeah.
You want to be like the agent to address that? The situation with the trees? You're okay with the forestry condition?
We are also okay with the forest condition.
Okay. Any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. I'm satisfied the variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I move approval subject to the transportation conditions and urban forestry condition 2.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Stan. All in favor? It's unanimous. You have your approval. Thank you. Good luck with the care. Okay, our next application is item number 27, 5 Nashland Avenue. It's an application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a 2-story east side addition, a new front porch, and near rear yard deck. And there are 7 variances. And we have supporting materials. We have the previous, this matter was deferred from the February 23rd, 2023 hearing. And we have the materials from that. And Urban Forestry looking for condition 2. The speaker on this application, we have 3, is Lucas Cocomello, the agent for the applicant. We have a landlord at the property at 86 North Heights, which is directly behind the
Mr.
property.
Chair, I can confirm
Yes.
that resident is not present on the call at this time, but the area
Okay.
resident at 78 North Heights is.
Okay, so we have one neighbor on the line after we hear from Mr. Cocomello.
Correct.
Welcome, sir. Sir?
Sorry,
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Lucas Cocomello from Etobicoke, 340 Church Street in Oakville.
Welcome. So I see you giving us some supporting materials. Looks like precedents of other properties in the area. And you also have your, from the previous hearing, you have your additional materials. But you can give us a bit of a background, just a brief presentation?
Sure. So today I'm here representing the owner. We're proposing a second-story addition plus a 2-story rear addition to the existing dwelling. With regards to the supporting material, what we're proposing is in line with previous notice of decisions that have been issued, and within that supporting material, the majority of the decisions that are provided are based on renovations. I would say I think there's about 2 of those decisions are in relation to a couple of new builds that were built in the area. With that being said, we feel that the application as presented today is minor in nature. And if you have any questions, please let me know and I can do my best to answer them.
Okay, I just want to, so when you were back here in February, was it deferred in order to correctly identify the variances? Were the variances indeed correct or?
Correct. We were missing a front yard setback variance.
Okay, so that has now been added, I guess. So now everything is proper as before us. Okay, so that was just one I've always like to know the reason for the deferral or remind ourselves of that. Okay, so I guess we did have in the minutes the other 2 neighbors. We do have one of those neighbors, Danny Carlos at 78 North Heights Road. So unless anyone has any questions for Mr. Cocomello, let's hear from Mr. Carlos. Okay, welcome, Mr. Carlos.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I just I'm listening in just to support the upgrade at this property at 5 Nashland. I think it's great for the community. We're seeing it happening quite a bit more, and it's not a cookie cutter development just like around the corner where there was a big development of 56 homes, I think just in the last few years. So it's nice to see something unique and different, as well as fitting in with the neighborhood style. And I just want to support 5 Nashland.
Okay, it was certainly very neighborly you to stay on the line and listen to our excitement to express support rather than expressing concern like most people do. So nice.
Glad I don't have to sit in other meetings where I would be doing some of that battling myself. It's nice to be supportive for once.
Exactly. Very good. Okay, so obviously I don't think the members have any questions for you. And so let's, and there's nothing, I guess, for Mr. Cocomello to reply to in a rebuttal or to answer any questions. So members, any questions for Mr. Cocomello or someone ready for a motion? Mr. Morik?
Yeah, the only question is the front yard setback, is that an existing condition? Sorry, I've lost, yeah, but.
Mr. Cocomello with us?
He's just muted at the moment.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lucas.
Yes, the front yard setback is an existing condition.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or someone ready for a motion?
With that response, I'm good to go if no one has any questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I find the application meets the 4 tests and is minor in nature. I'd like to move approval subject to the transportation condition and the condition of forestry for private trees.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that, Ms. Alderson. Thank you all.
If I may, sorry, if I may. I don't see a transportation condition.
It's in the package, the main package.
It's in the previous hearing materials.
Oh, okay, so we're bound by previous materials, are we?
If they're applicable, yes.
Yeah, because this one just deferred to Identify, so.
That's fine.
To the driveway.
February 16th memo, correct?
Yep. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. I get it right. Okay, so all in favor? I think we had a motion to second it. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Cocamel. Thank you, Mr. Carlos. Okay, our last application of the afternoon is number 28, which was deferred from the February 9th, 2023 hearing for Lauren Bruce Drive. And this is an application to construct a new detached garage with 2 variances, coverage and the floor area. And we have, we have the materials from the previous hearing. We have the presentation materials in the minutes. And that's basically all we have. 2 minor variances, and the applicant is Ida Evangelista. No letters of opposition, no city departments weighing in otherwise. Welcome back.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. We were in front of you on February the 9th. I deferred it at that time to allow the opportunity to work with planning on this particular situation, and we had to work with zoning because there was a mess. So now we're back in front of you. We have made the garage smaller. This is, you'll notice some materials that I provided to you. You'll see in a line of asking for. There currently is a garage on the property, but even though we are asking to build a larger garage, we do not have any rear landscaping variances. We have no setbacks because the lot itself is quite able to support a garage.
Okay, and there's no one here in opposition, planning, forestry. We have nothing on this, and like I said, 2 variances, slightly oversized, and nothing from the neighbors. Any questions for Mrs. Evangelista, or someone ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion if no one has any.
Okay.
This is a very, very straightforward application. And I believe it meets the 4 tests. It's minor, very minor in nature, and I move for approval subject to nothing.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that? Ms. Reddick, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Mrs. Evangelista.
Thank you, and have your
application approved.
Ciao.
Thank you. Okay,
Ciao.
and now a motion to adjourn at 3:41 p.m.
I like those motions best. I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Definitely second it.
Okay, thank you. So thank you again to our wonderful staff, to Adam for being the moderator today, and everyone else.
Adam with the great voice, the great speaking voice.
Okay, yeah. So be safe, everyone, and we'll see you back next time.
Thank you, members. Have a good evening.
Thanks, staff.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.